Hello everyone, and welcome to Halo Explored, a new series on X Interact where we rank and review each mainline Halo game up to the release of Halo Infinite. I'm your host Eric, and today I'm joined by Steven, Gaff, and Sam, and we're going to be reviewing Halo 2 Anniversary. If you like what you see, you can follow us at xinteract_ on Twitter, where we post updates on videos and have daily tweets. You can also follow us on YouTube to find all the videos that we're doing now, like Halo Explored. We also have a podcast feed on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that kind of stuff. But for now, let's start off with Halo 2. Now, guys, before I go into the facts and development, do you guys have any thoughts on Halo 2? How'd you think about it? Did you like it or not?
Great.
Better than Halo 1.
The jump from Halo Combat Evolved to Halo 2 is even greater than between Assassin's Creed to Assassin's Creed 2.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah. And Assassin's Creed 2 from Assassin's Creed 1 was a big jump, so. But anyways, let me get into the facts. Do you have any jingle for the facts? We can probably put a jingle for the facts.
No jingle.
No jingle.
Jingle. Don't worry, I got it.
Facts.
The facts explored. I don't know.
Damn it.
Anyways, Halo 2 released in November 9th, 2004. Obviously, it's a sequel to the critically acclaimed Halo Combat Evolved. The game was developed by Bungie and published by Microsoft Studios for the original Xbox. It was eventually ported to the Windows Vista in 2007. And then a remaster was released in Halo 2 Anniversary as part of the Master Chief Collection in 2014. And I want to say, those Halo 2 Anniversary cutscenes, ooh boy.
You want to talk about a glow up? Like, look at Halo 2 Anniversary. Like, pressing the select button to switch between the graphics. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
I want a whole movie with those graphics. Like, just make Blur Studios do everything.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I like how the beginning cutscene ties into Halo 5 because you just see like Locke and his team talking about the Arbiter. Like, that was just a tease for Halo 5, but we'll get to that eventually. But yeah, let's get into the development. So of course, Halo Combat Evolved success. Everyone wanted the sequel. If your game's successful, you want a sequel. And that sequel was announced in 2002. Now bolstered with support from a publisher, the team at Bungie was fueled by greater ambitions than ever, wanting to not only re-implement cut content from the first game, but go even bolder and grander. They poured effort into a new game and physics engine. However, the lack of leadership led to burnout and development issues. For multiplayer specifically, the original promise from Bungie was to have human versus elite Covenant teams and have the ability to call in airstrikes, which you can kind of see in multiplayer on the human Covenant side, because you can play the Covenant in multiplayer.
Optionally, yeah.
Yeah, optionally. Which I thought was pretty cool, at least have some difference between the Spartans.
Yeah. And they never did it again. Like, except in Halo 2. Halo 3. Halo 3.
Isn't that a thing in Reach? Or no, in Reach it's a different game mode, right?
Oh, yeah. In Reach, it's locked into a specific game mode.
Yeah, which I want to... Yeah, that's all good, because I never really played much of Reach, but that's a different story for when we get to there. Created two teams for multiplayer. One to focus on the smaller arena modes, and the other to focus on the larger warfare modes. For the story, the team wanted to tell part of the Covenant perspective. A character named Dervish, is that how you pronounce it? Dervish?
I guess.
I don't know.
Sounds right.
Yeah, he eventually became the Arbiter, and he would be our view into this side of the war. In 2003, Bungie prepared a gameplay demo for E3, which infamously included many elements that would not be present in the final game. The demo was almost entirely fabricated for the sake of presentation, and there would be no playable build for nearly a year. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. That sounds like a very familiar recurring theme in today's day and age.
Oof, yeah.
So unheard of in 2003.
They began to scale back the game, such as cutting out an entire third act, which you can probably tell how the game ends. You can just tell that. Variants of vehicles, etc. The warfare multiplayer had to be scrapped. It soon became evident that Halo 2 would not be a launch title for Xbox Live in November 2003. Microsoft bet their success as a platform on Halo, and so held a note on whether to force them to ship the game or not. Ed Freeze, head of Microsoft Studios at the time, walked out of the vote. In order to make the November 2004 date, Bungie entered the mother of all crunches. Design lead Paul Bertone recalled, he kennelled his dog for nearly 2 months and slept in the office for the final days of development. So as you can see,
nobody's doing that today.
No,
Nobody.
Yeah. But yeah,
I hope.
Another crunch for another Halo game.
Bungie, if this happened today, they would have received the worst media fire of all time. I guess on par with CD Projekt Red.
Yeah, so it's not like it's uncommon today, unfortunately, but it's definitely more publicized.
Yeah.
And so for sure they would not have gotten away with this same situation in today's day and age. But it's good to see these kind of things being brought up later on as kind of like a good history lesson, right?
For all this crunch, it's amazing the game turned out as good as it did, right? When we all know that even though some companies do all this crunch, it will not always pay off.
But anyway, that was just a small amount of facts. There's a lot more we can get into, but we'll just go straight into the plot with our lore master here, Gaff. So, lore master Gaff, take us away in the plot. Explore that plot.
So, sometime after the events of Halo Combat Evolve, where we destroyed the Halo Ring and escaped the clutches of the Covenant and the Flood, humanity is very happy and they're praising Master Chief as a hero. It opens up at a ceremony. The Chief is getting some new armor, the Mark 6 armor actually, and there's a grunt, or sorry, a Marine is talking to him, saying some lines, and then Chief says a really cool line, "Tell that to the Covenant," and then he goes on to his parade. Meanwhile, simultaneously, we go to the Covenant base which we would later know as High Charity, and an elite is receiving the exact opposite treatment. So Thel Vadimi, who was the fleet commander of the Covenant fleet that we were fighting in the first Halo game, he's being punished because obviously he failed. He let their sacred artifact get destroyed. And so he is being paraded in front of all these Covenant. He's being escorted by these brutes who we are introduced to in this game. And he's stripped of his armor and he's branded on the chest. So he is being shamed and we assume is going to be executed. While these two things are happening, back on the space station where Chief is receiving his medal, the Covenant attack. They're attacking Earth. And this is big news because if the Covenant found Earth, then humanity is probably doomed. But we get into the heat of action and we're introduced to all these cool new weapons, the submachine gun, the battle rifle, the fact that we can dual wield now. It's awesome. We defend the space station. We discover that there's a bomb in the space station. Chief, he does one of the coolest things in video games ever, where he sees the bomb, he sees the alien ships outside, and then he tells the commander that he's going to go up to space. And he's like, "What are you doing that for?" And he says, "To give the Covenant back their bomb."
"Sir, permission to leave the station."
"For what purpose, Master Chief?"
"To give the Covenant back their bomb."
"Permission granted."
Fantastic line.
That's
a good impression. I appreciated that.
Give the Covenant back their bomb. Yeah, I just think it was one of the most memorable parts of any Halo game, honestly. And it's such a great opener, really, to the game, and get you kicked off with such energy. You're just like, yes, I'm gonna go kick their ass. Like, let's go.
This opening cutscene, I was just like immediately like, wow, this is gonna be at least better than the first game.
Absolutely.
Because it's a sick cutscene.
And so he flies through space. He delivers the bomb into like the center of one of the Covenant ships, lets it explode, and he continues falling down towards Earth, and he lands like a brick on one of our human ships.
Just one question. What if you miss?
I won't.
But the fight's not over yet because they're taking the Covenant are taking the fight down to the surface. Cut to the next level. We're in the city of. Okay, I'm not exactly sure what city. I want to say New Mombasa, but that might be a Halo 3 thing.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's Cairo. Is it Cairo or New Mombasa?
Cairo was the station. New Mombasa is the city. I think we're in the outskirts of New Mombasa.
Okay.
Okay, so the Covenant are sieging the city, and we make a pretty good defense. We're using tanks and warthogs and rocket launchers and all the good stuff. We end up killing a scarab, which is something new that we see in this game, which is a gigantic bug that is made of the same worms as the hunters are. Fun fact.
Is it really?
Right.
Those
Yeah.
big ass walking tank things? Really?
Yeah. We take out the scarab. However, we now see that the Covenant fleet, they opened a slip space portal and they appear to be running away. And we have Miranda Keyes, who's the daughter of
I think it was.
Jacob Keyes in the first game. Miranda Keyes, she sees the Covenant running, and they're like, we gotta chase them. We gotta follow them, which might be a very foolish move, right? In actual practical military. But she tells her ship to chase them, and they do. They make it into the portal just in time, and the shockwave of the collapsing portal damages the city, and that signals the events of Halo 3 ODST, but we'll talk about that later. Then we cut to the Covenant side. Selvadamine, he's ready to die, but the hierarchs, who are the prophets of truth, mercy, and regret, is currently absent. Truth and mercy, they give Arbiter an alternate fate. You can be the Arbiter, and the Arbiter is a sacred role in the elite culture, where they're in the past times, the Arbiter was this like sacred holy figure who's supposed to be the best of them all. But the Covenant religion they've co-opted that term. They're now using it as an excuse to get rid of some very problematic elites because the Arbiter is always sent on suicide missions. So yeah, it looks great on the outside, right, dressing him up in the Arbiter armor, but their goal is to actually just get rid of him in a non-ugly way. Regardless, Arbiter accepts the position, and he is sent to kill another heretic on another faraway planet. And I thought this was really cool. I think it's really neat seeing the Covenant perspective of the war and seeing other elites talk and have relationships, and even seeing how they treat the grunts and the jackals. I thought it was really interesting because in the first game we're just mindlessly shooting them because we just think they're bad guys, but they're humanizing them, which is awesome. And
It gives real quick, it does give perspective into like the NPC role, right? Rather than always just being something you shoot. So I appreciated that for this one. And it was cool. I don't know if you saw, I wanted to touch on, was it the Halo like terminals? Did they have those in this? Yeah. Those are some really cool things in those. And it has one where they're going in depth and he's explaining to the artificial intelligence, the bot. It's one of the, I think it's later on. I don't know if it's near there, but they're explaining that whole situation. You're telling them that they're sending arbiters on suicide missions.
Yep.
And it gives a lot more context. And I don't think those were in the original Halo 2.
No, they're added in the anniversary edition. Yeah.
So that really enriches the story for me going through that. So that was really cool. Sorry, go ahead.
So we're trying to find this heretic. And over the course of this long mission, we get introduced to the Flood again. We eventually encounter the heretic and we kill him in this really goofy boss fight. Halo 2 was a game that tried to do boss fights, but I don't think it worked out the way they wanted it to. If you guys know what I mean.
Yeah, that boss fight's pretty easy because you can go invisible, grab an energy sword, and just basically like kill him pretty easily. So
we kill him before he can really tell us what his plan is, and then a new character pops up. Who is it? It's 343 Guilty Spark. Guess what? In case you weren't paying attention to end credits of the first game, he survived the destruction of the Halo Ring. And Guilty Spark is like, oh, hello. You must be an elite, and blah, blah, blah. But before Guilty Spark can divulge further, one of the brutes sucks him up and takes him for questioning. Because in the religion, the monitors, they're called oracles, and I guess they're sacred. Cut to the human perspective. We come out of the slip space portal, and we see that the Covenant fleet, they found another Halo Ring. Because guess what? There's more than one. Miranda Keyes is like, if they want it, that means we don't want them to have it. And so we're going to get it first. And so in a sick cutscene, Chief and a bunch of ODSTs, they get into the drop pods. They drop down from the ship. They're breaking through atmosphere. They're burning up. And they land on the surface. and Chief, he kicks open the door, and Cortana goes like, "Could you make possibly any more noise?" And Chief just shoulders a rocket launcher, and he's like, "Yep, I can."
Could we possibly make any more noise? I guess so.
Can I just say that Chief is like a lot more badass in this game?
Well, yeah,
Agreed.
the
Some
animation.
personality.
Yeah, exactly. like even before they dropped in the drop pod, when Johnson knocks on his drop pod,
Oh
and
yeah,
then Chief just like knocks back. He's like, "Yeah, bro, I'm ready." Fucking
so
love
awesome. Yeah. We explore the Halo ring and we're taking out Covenant. And over the course of our missions in this part of the game, we find out that the Prophet of Regret, he mistakenly found Earth. And once he got to Earth, he started freaking out. He's like, "Oh no, I didn't come here to fight. I'm not ready to fight you guys. I'm trying to run." And then they ended up getting to the Halo ring. And now the Prophet is basically trying to like escape because he's trying to get back home. But we don't let him. We go and kill the Prophet in another really dumb boss fight where you awkwardly.
Is this what you call? Is this
back,
does this
punch
count as
it.
a boss fight?
I think it's a boss fight because it's the Prophet's like floating around in his dumb chair and you gotta like
Oh,
hijack him.
yeah, I
And-
guess.
I think
so.
that's a failure of the game that you didn't realize that was really a boss fight.
I mean, yeah,
It's
'cause,
like,
I mean,
it's like boss fights back then, and like those where they tried to add boss fights in games that didn't need boss fights.
yeah, because like this one, like you just clear out his guard and just hijack his chair and punch him to death. not really a boss fight.
After that, the Covenant, they start glassing the area, and so Chief, he's running on like the platform and he dives into the water. But as he's sinking through the water, a little tentacle curls up around him and drags him deeper in. What's happening? We won't know until later.
It's obviously an
Cut to-
octopus.
Yeah. The Cthulhu.
Squidward.
Squidward.
Cut to the Covenant side again. We end up also on the Halo ring, and we're going to get the sacred icon, which is the index. And if you remember, the index was the item we tried to retrieve in the god-awful level, the library, in the first game. We're trying to activate this ring. In order to activate it, we need the index. And so Arbiter, his team of elites, and the brutes, and the head of the brutes called Tartarus, they're all going to try to help get the index. And over the course of their journey, they realize that Flood have broken out of the containment facilities on the ring, and there's now another Flood outbreak. This outbreak has been happening for a while now because, sort of spoilers, the modder on this ring, he became corrupted and stopped following protocol and let the Flood loose. So we're fighting Flood, and the Flood, they're still equally not as fun to fight in this game as the first game.
I feel like they're a lot easier in this game though. As the Arbiter, you have like the energy sword, and that usually just one shots them. There's like a few times where it is annoying, but like other than that, I feel like it's a lot. And like shotguns, like I feel like kill them a lot easier in this game than they did in Combat Evolved.
There's a section where we're on an elevator for what seems like 10 whole minutes.
Yeah.
Just repeatedly fighting waves of Flood.
Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about. That one was kind of annoying because I would die randomly for some, like I would kill like a Flood and they had like a shotgun too. And I'm like, well, okay.
We're very close to the index. We see it right there, but we're also racing the humans. We see we're on a gondola and we see the humans also just ahead. So it's a tight race. But we get to the area where it's in, and then in a cutscene we have this really sick fight between, I guess, Johnson and Arbiter and Miranda Keyes. But then we get betrayed. Tartarus, he stuns us. He takes the icon, and then he just kicks us down the shaft. And we're led to believe the Arbiter is dead. However, next cutscene goes, we're being dragged through this nasty, ratty tunnel. And then in one of the coolest upgrades between the original game and the Anniversary Edition, we see the Gravemind. And the Gravemind is has one of the coolest designs in video games.
What is that?
I'd rather not piss this thing off.
Demon. This one is machine and nerve, and has its mind concluded. This one is but flesh and faith, and is the more deluded.
Yeah, it's disgusting looking. That's what it is.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's like a giant worm, and it has teeth and a bloody mouth, and it talks.
Venus flytrap kind of inspiration, right?
Like the Sarlacc in Star Wars. And then if you switch the graphics to the original version, it just looks like an ugly sock puppet.
Yeah.
But so the Grave Mind shows us that the Flood do have this gigantic intelligence that is guiding them, and that's super scary. Oh, it's also even more scary because the Grave Mind is negotiating with Chief and Arbiter for the sake of its own survival, because it knows that everyone here is going to lose if the Prophets get what they want. And so the Grave Mind makes a deal. They're going to split Chief and Arbiter up. Chief is going to look for, I forget exactly what they're looking for, but Chief is going to go to High Charity to search for something, and Arbiter is going to go elsewhere on the ring to look for something. Cut to Chief, who gets teleported to High Charity in the middle of some grand ceremony. Chief is in the thick of it, but he gets through everything, plows through waves and waves of Covenant. What eventually happens... Oh, sorry, Eric. This transitions into the level you hate the most, right?
Yeah, this level fucking sucks. It's basically like it has all the problems I had with like Combat Evolved, where it's too long. The checkpoints, for some reason, in this level only, I found were inconsistent, because like I would rush past enemies. I'll be like, I don't need to fight you guys. I want to keep going. But then if I die like in a later portion, it sends me way back. I'm like, what the fuck? Why didn't you just give me a checkpoint later on? And it's like another one of those levels where it's fucking annoying. But like there was only level in like I think this game that gave me problems. The other ones didn't really, to be honest. Just this one.
I can't recall the exact objective of Chief's mission. It eventually involves blowing up the crashed human ship in Amber Clad. But in order to blow it up,
Cortana said that was the failsafe if the ring was activated.
Yeah. However, in order to activate the detonation of the ship, Cortana has to stay behind. So Chief and Cortana, they split up, and Chief is trying to get off High Charity by catching a lift on the giant Forerunner ship. Over the course of this fight, all the politics that's been building up over the course of this game, it reaches a climax. Because this entire time, the Brutes, they've been planning sort of a coup against the elites, because the elites have been the top dogs in the Covenant society. But the Brutes, over the course of the game, they've taken over the positions. The Brutes are now the Royal Guard instead of the elites, and the elites aren't happy about that. As we're walking through the corridor after corridor, we hear on the speaker, the Prophet of Truth is essentially inciting a civil war. And then it all blows up. Elites are fighting Brutes, Jackals, and Grunts are fighting other Jackals and Grunts, Hunters and Hunters. It's all a mess. All right, everyone's fighting each other. There's a part, I don't know if you guys caught this, but there's a part in that level where we enter this gigantic circular room, and if you switch it to the original graphics, a really badass song, or at least the instrumental of this really badass song plays. That's when you really see like a big fight between the Covenant enemies, and it's just really cool. Like you can let them take care of themselves. They'll eventually kill each other, or you can just get in there yourself. But it's awesome. And so the Great Schism happens, which is the divide between Covenant loyalists and the elites. But eventually we make it through. We get onto the Forerunner ship, and we start blasting through the portal back home. And we say a very heartfelt goodbye to Cortana. Chief promises to come back for her, but then she says the iconic line, "Don't make a girl promise you know you can't keep."
Chief, when you get to Earth, good luck.
After I'm through with Truth.
Don't make a girl a promise if you know you can't keep it.
tears. Then the tears flowed.
Right. Yeah.
Then we cut to Arbiter again, and Arbiter's on the ring, and Arbiter's trying to stop Tartarus from activating the ring. That's what he needs to do. It involves teaming up with Sergeant Johnson, actually, who's taking command of a Scarab, and they're blasting through enemies, and Arbiter makes it to the control room of the Halo ring. We get into another boss fight, the final boss fight, which is pretty annoying because you're fighting Tartarus, who has a one-shot, one-kill gravity hammer, and it has this like invincible shield, and you can't break through the shield. The only way the shield breaks is if Sergeant Johnson shoots him with the sniper rifle. So you have to kind of wait for Sergeant Johnson to break his shield.
I just like to keep shooting at him because like I tried to use the energy sword on him too, but like nothing. Like he would just fucking kill me instantly. I didn't know you had to wait for Johnson to shoot him.
I guess you could break the shield yourself, but I don't know if that takes longer or wastes more ammo. Oh, and there's like these gravity lifts in the center of the room, and so many times I accidentally step into the lift, and I would get sent all the way up to the top level, and I have to find my way back down to find Tartarus. But eventually, you kill Tartarus. Miranda Keyes, who is a human, she retrieves the index, stops the activation of the ring. However, upon the shutdown, the ring sends out a signal. A signal to what? Well, 343 Guilty Spark, he explains that the ring sent out a signal to all the other Halo rings in the galaxy, and now they're all on standby, waiting for them all to be activated at once. And you can only activate them all at once at this location called the Ark. What's the Ark? We won't get to find out in this game. Cut to Chief, who arrives back on war-torn Earth. There's the giant fight happening, and then the command of the army hears Chief, and he's like, "Chief, what are you doing on that? What are you doing on that ship?" And then Chief goes, "Sir, to finish the fight." Cut to black, credits.
One thing I want to appreciate here was the level they went to for the pun. Ark of the Covenant. I mean...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even notice that.
I thought I would just point that out as an appreciation that they totally went there, and without most people noticing. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, there's the whole Covenant naming scheme. There's a ton of like religious word plays. Like it's good. But anyway, that is the end, if not abrupt end, of Halo 2. That's the plot.
Yeah, when this game ended, I was like, "Wait, that's it?" Like,
yeah,
you and everyone else.
I was like, I know there's a third one, so I guess whatever. But like, it's just like, what the hell?
You have to wait 3 whole years, I think, to see what happens.
Yeah,
I mean, they're going for an Empire Strikes Back kind of vibe. I think at the time people were very unhappy with it.
Yeah, there was like a big controversy about that, right? Where people felt like another cliffhanger or were mad about it, no?
Yep.
Yeah.
But if you forgot to mention the little post-credit scene. Is it post-credits or the legendary ending?
It's not even a legendary ending. It happens right after Chief says that line. So we fade to black and we go back to High Charity, who by now has been just overrun with Flood. And this is quite bad when you think about it, because there's a lot of aliens here. There's a lot of bodies. Therefore, a lot of food for the Flood. And it's a lot of high tech. So now the Gravemind has control of all this super fancy Covenant tech. And that's really bad. Little Cortana is left there all by herself. And the Gravemind wants to interrogate her. And then she's fine with it. One of the tentacles approaches her and she's like, "No, get away." And then she says, "Shoot." As in, shoot me any question you want. And then it's cut to black. And then credits.
Kind of a cool way to end it. It sucks that you had to wait. If you were waiting, right, you're playing them sequentially as they were released. I remember this part being super, super disappointing when we were playing, because I played it with my friend. We were just kind of waiting for the next one, or like, okay, that's where it stops. This is where we have to now wait however long, because we didn't know how long it was going to take. And rumors and leaks and things like that were few and far between at the time, as far as development goes. And definitely a letdown to see that. But I think we, overall, though, when we thought about it, off of maybe about a week later, we're like, all right, that's okay, and that makes sense because it does set it up for a sequel. But I think they kind of just ran into... They probably might have been putting a better transition in had they not had that super crunch, is my guess. And I think that kind of had to play into it. But they kind of do make up for it here in the next entry, which was cool.
So now let's get into like our, I guess, discussion phase is what I guess I'll call it. I don't know what else to call this, but we'll go into our likes and dislikes, favorite gun, what you think about the level design, if you think the game holds up, multiplayer thoughts, and now this is a little special one because in the Master Chief Collection, it features 2 Halo 2 multiplayer, the original and the Anniversary Edition.
And they're very different.
Yep, very different indeed. So we'll just go over that. So I guess I'll start with my likes and dislikes. I have a couple notes here that I've written down. Those anniversary cutscenes, so fucking good. Like I can't go back and like watch the originals. Maybe like for curiosity, but like those they're too good. Again, like I said, Chief is such a fucking badass in this game. Like he talks a lot more than in 1 and stuff. Like the way he acts is fucking badass. I don't find myself getting as frustrated in this game than I did in Combat Evolved, which is a plus. Like I feel like there was a lot of cheap deaths and stuff like that in the first game. And this one, I feel like most of it a lot more fair. Besides, Gravemind, that level fucking sucked. It was, like I said earlier, too long, inconsistent checkpoints for some reason. I don't know what happened there, but there's that. Cloaking with the Arbiter, I think it's actually pretty good because it lets you like speed run the game because you can like just run past enemies and shit. And I was like, yeah, I don't have to deal with you guys. I'm just leaving. Yeah. I'm going.
That's how you get part-time.
Yeah, exactly. Checkpoints, like I said, they're a lot more consistent in this game besides in Gravemind. I think there was subtitles in Combat Evolved, but then in 2, there's no subtitles for NPCs when you're doing gameplay, and like you can barely hear them at all. Yep. And so like that's like a really bad design there because like I don't understand what the fuck is going on half the time.
That gameplay that may be fixed in Season 8 of Master Chief Collection.
Hopefully, because I could not hear anything playing. Yeah, that's my likes and dislikes. Favorite gun? I don't think I really thought about that, but like I don't want to say favorite gun. I think I like the energy sword because this is like the first game they introduced it, I believe. And
the first one that you can actually use it yourself.
Yeah, it's in Halo 1, but only the elites can use it. Now you can actually use it in gameplay here, and it's like really fun to use. Like I said, as the Arbiter, just go cloak and then get up behind an enemy, just slash them. That's great. Level design, I think, is a lot better in this game than Combat Evolved. There's not as many repeat assets like in Combat Evolved. You can tell where you're going. And I think, honestly... go ahead.
I did get lost a couple of times. One thing I can think of is on the space station where we're in that 0G level.
Yeah, I think...
That's pretty cool, by the way. Like, the sound cuts out and you can, like, float everywhere.
Yeah, when you're going outside. Yeah, definitely.
I did lose sight of where I was supposed to go. I couldn't find the door. And yeah, so there are a couple of times I got lost.
Yeah, but I don't think it's as bad as Combat Evolved, that's for sure. And I think we're going to do a multiplayer separately. I want to get all our thoughts at once for that, so I'll hold off for that. But I do want to say, this soundtrack fucking slaps, even more than Combat Evolves.
Yeah.
Top notch, man.
Like, I'm pretty sure the Master Chief Collection, like the main menus and all, that's all Halo 2 Anniversary music, and it's so good. Like, there's a lot of variety in there too. There's like a lot of somber music, which I really like to listen to, just to chill out. It's all so good.
Yeah, I second your thoughts on the soundtrack. As far as my likes and dislikes go, like I said before, there's such a massive improvement over Combat Evolved. It's like a breath of fresh air. There's so much more it can do in the sandbox. New guns. Like, I'll say my favorite gun right now is the Covenant Carbine.
Oh yeah, that's another good one.
It's such fun to pop heads with, especially to have Grunt Birthday Party skull on. That's awesome. But of course, I got to mention the battle rifle because it replaces the assault rifle as your main gun.
How the fuck did I forget about the battle rifle? That's like an iconic gun for that game.
Yeah, what a great design too. The rail. You can get into so many more vehicles now. You can get into the Wraith. You can get into I forget like the smaller red Covenant vehicle that you can get into.
Yeah, and fun fact, I didn't even know there was a thing until the final level. I was like, holy shit, the Covenant have their own version of a Warthog? What the fuck?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that until I played the final level of this playthrough.
Yeah, I just can't say how much I like this game. It's also the game I played the least of the entire trilogy because I didn't play Halo 2 until the Master Chief Collection. Dislikes, yeah, Flood, still not great. they're not as awful as before, but they're still like the low point in this game for me, I think. Some of the level design, like I said, did cause me to get lost. I think some of the levels do go on a little too long, like Gravemind, like some of Arbiter's levels.
Yeah, some of them are pretty short too. Like I'm pretty sure one of Arbiter's levels is, I think it's is it the final one where you just guide the Scarab, and then you go into the what's the in Halo's control room, you fight like one wave of enemies, or if you did what I did, just cloak past them, and then you fight Tartarus, and that's it. It's a pretty short level.
Yeah, one level took me like 6 minutes to beat.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do like the story a lot because, again, I like the human versus Covenant perspective, humanizing the enemies, having a look at their own politics. I love the Great Schism, the brutes superseding the elites in a political move, just getting into the works of how their whole religion and organization works. It's really awesome. And we actually do feel connected to the Arbiter and his elite buddies, or at least I did. Yeah, fantastic. And those are my thoughts.
It's safe to say this is definitely my favorite Halo game that I've played so far. Not that there's much competition. The cutscenes, man, they slap so hard, as well as the soundtrack. Those are the two things that continue to impress me with the Halo franchise. I love the cutscenes. I love the music. I also love the gun design and the weapon design. Yeah, my favorite weapon is definitely the energy sword. I love being able to use that thing in this game. I love playing as the Arbiter. My favorite gun, Gaff said it, it's the carbine. That thing's sick as hell.
Yeah, man.
I remember popping heads with that shit. As far as just like overall like gameplay, I still just find the gameplay of this game not super exciting. Obviously, it's an old game, so it hasn't, it's aged quite a bit, but it's still definitely better than Combat Evolved, but I still find the shooting mechanics and just the overall feel of the gameplay to just be kind of lacking. That's what I think. I think the level design's definitely better as well. I didn't really get lost in this game. I think there was one mission where I got lost where you had to fly around a little bit outside, and I got lost there because I just suck at flying, so I was just so uncoordinated.
Was everything was the sky like orange?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, yeah.
But yeah, other than that, the level design definitely a step up from the first game. None of the missions completely stick out to me where I'm taking 8 years to figure out where I'm going, figure out where this computer monitor that's against a wall is to activate the door that I'm supposed to know is there. So yeah, definitely a step up from the first game.
Yeah, I think I kind of echo a lot of what you guys are saying, including the carbine, which was my favorite weapon. It was just the best addition to there, in my opinion. A lot of people think the BR was the best one, and it's the most popular standing as you go through the series that we'll see later. But the carbine was just sticky and the right amount of hit scan. They're always just so good at making weapons feel fun to play with, right? That's kind of been Bungie's MO. They do it really well now still with Destiny, and that's why I go back to that game. They're masters of their craft in that form. As far as on another note for gameplay movement, right? Still not exactly where I would want it to be. Even back then, I remember it just kind of feeling a little slower. I just remember that being something that stuck with me because I was playing with Sam last night, and I was thinking, well, this feels slow, but also back then it kind of still felt a little slow. So wow. Maybe that was the point. You're supposed to be this marauding destroyer, right? It wasn't really about speed, it was about destruction, right? And I guess they kind of won there. You do feel like a badass, and I'll give them that. 100% of the time you feel like a badass. The cutscenes, second to none, like you guys said, as far as Blur does some great work in this to make it even modern. When you go look at these cutscenes today, they still hold up and they're still awesome. Like you said, I'd want just a supercut or a movie maybe fleshing out this. That would be awesome. The thing I noticed, and that was the most negative, was the ending, right? It did feel real stilted and kind of, you're just all right, it is what it is. Some voice lines didn't really hit the way I wanted them to. But again, that might have just been a sign of the time. This is more recent impressions, so
Yeah, this is before they had Chris Pratt voicing Mario.
right,
All right,
right. Only the top tier Jack Black's voicing Bowser, and so I'll give him a break on that.
Like-
The Scarab gun was a cool thing, a cool secret. I don't know if you guys ever got to that.
That's in my fun fact section. Don't spoil it.
Okay, we'll get to that later. But that was really cool, and that leads me to one of my other likes was some of the secrets in there, and finding those with my friends was real fun. Again, I'll agree with Sam in the sense that it still didn't quite meet where I wanted it to, and the game was made by me playing with my friends, and so that wasn't a huge deal then, and it's still not a huge deal now. It's definitely carried by the weight of its story, and you just kind of feeling like a badass in the gunplay. But that's it for my thoughts on that.
I do want to say I continue to respect, as much as I don't really enjoy playing the games that much. I continue to respect how much I can see the influence that Mass Effect got from this franchise. Like, there's so many connections, such similar like story threads. Obviously, Mass Effect like fleshes it out a ton because it's an RPG. But yeah, I continue to respect that aspect of it. The sci-fi, there's a lot of influences there and connections to Mass Effect. So I do like that kind of stuff.
Yep. So do you guys have any more thoughts? Oh, Gaff?
Gaff?
I have another dislike. The bugs. The flying bug.
Oh, the
Covenant
drones?
enemies.
I think that's what they're called, drones.
I missed that. I was going to mention that when you were talking about those 0G levels. I'm not about those guys, and they're so annoying. It's so hard to shoot them. But yeah,
flying enemies in video games just suck. Like, just every game has flying enemies, and it pisses me off.
Especially when there's a dozen of them.
Yeah, it's awful.
And I can't believe we almost didn't mention this. If you're playing on Legendary, those Jackal snipers, man. One shot, one kill. Without, they don't even give you a second to blink. You peek your head out, you're dead. You gotta restart. And I tried that once, and then I quickly noped out of Legendary.
Yeah, I stuck to normal for my playthrough. Not going above normal for me.
All right, with all that said and done, let's move on to the multiplayer. So, like I said earlier, we have the original and anniversary multiplayer. Did you guys happen to play both of them? Because they are pretty different.
I did.
Yeah,
yes.
I think me and Steven both got to play both last night.
That's good. Any thoughts? Like, do you prefer one or the other?
I'm in the anniversary one, right? Like, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I told Steven...
They feel the same.
Yeah, definitely. I told Steven this before, but I think Halo 2 Anniversary looks a lot better than Halo 5. Just putting it out there right now.
I agree with you.
Art direction and, yeah, probably overall, I think I'd agree with that, honestly.
Not to mention the sounds of the guns. I don't know if you remember how Halo 5 sounded. It was good, but I think Halo 2 Anniversary is like many tiers better in terms of sound design.
Yeah, they knocked it out of the park with Anniversary. And you can definitely tell it's so jarring when you go. So if you queue up for 2 and Anniversary, it's so jarring when you go between the two of them. But I'm like always dreading every time I get to the basic 2, like, oh, okay. I guess we'll just play through it. Because it feels exactly the same and it plays almost the same. But all the trapping around it, the maps look so much better. The art design is better than 5, I think. And then everything just feels a little tighter on top of that. So we have some B-roll as well that we got from... I played with both Sam and Eric in different occasions. So yeah, you can definitely notice when you look at the two where they put the resources in. And they couldn't do that with all of them, correct?
So at the start, there was only 6 remastered maps that they did for Anniversary. And then I think I was telling you when we were playing, I think we got some Forge maps that they probably added later on. Because you can like definitely tell which maps were like from Forge. Because like there was some weird concrete textures going on. I know we're not onto there yet, but like the last time I played the Master Chief Collection, going from Halo 2 Anniversary to Halo 3 is like a big difference. And not in a good way, to be honest. But that's just because they didn't remaster Halo 3's graphics that much, from what I remember. I might be wrong once I go back for the next episode, but
I mean, I love it, but I don't think they need it. But that's a
maybe
discussion for another time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, multiplayer is great. Yeah, like regardless of whether it's classic or anniversary. Okay, no, it's good, especially in comparison to Combat Evolve, but it's if you look at the classic one, yeah, it's still very slow, especially if you're on the massive maps like Coagulation. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
There's some big maps, and you still can't sprint. You still gotta leisurely walk everywhere. It can be slow too.
Just want to like note some stuff for the anniversary edition multiplayer, that they added some stuff that wasn't in the original. They added the assault rifle back in. They put a silenced SMG, and they also put the gun goose in there too, which I didn't realize until I was playing a match with Steven the other day. Just like some like little neat changes they did there, which I think is pretty cool.
I may be wrong, but I think the gun goose was supposed to be in the original way back as well.
That kind of makes sense, 'cause I think it says here that 343 kind of considers it as like a director's cut, so that kind of makes sense.
The original vision could have been had they had maybe more time or resources.
Basically,
right?
Yeah.
And then it's also crazy too, because they, like I said earlier, they added Forge onto this, so like you have Halo 2 Forge basically when Forge wasn't introduced until Halo 3.
Yep.
It's a lot of crazy stuff in there. I will give a shout out to the original, that it is obviously the first Halo game with Xbox Live, and like that basically made it popular. And I'm pretty sure weren't people like trying to keep the servers alive when they tried to shut it down back in 2010?
Yep, and the final people to do that before they got forcibly kicked, their names, I'm not gonna say remember forever because I don't remember them, but they're remembered by someone.
Oh yeah, for sure. I remember that being like a big story that I think they extended the servers for like a month after the shutdown was supposed to happen. I could be wrong about that, but I remember hearing something about that. But anyways, now that we're done with multiplayer, do you want to hit us with the fun facts before we leave, Gaff?
So there are some fun facts that I'm gonna tell you about. First is this one Steven I hinted at earlier, the Scarab gun. It's an Easter egg in the Metropolis mission. It looks like an ordinary plasma rifle, but it carries the power of a scarab all in your hand. So if you get this gun, you can just blast your way throughout the entire level like that.
Fun fact.
Next.
Me and Steven tried to get this when we were playing together, but for some reason the Banshee didn't want to go into the tunnel. Like there was like an invisible force field or something pushing us back, which was weird.
So it's like a collision mesh that won't let the Banshee go into the tunnel if you do it before the checkpoint. And so you have to take the one after the checkpoint to go through the tunnel to actually have the ability to get to that point. And it shot us back,
Yeah.
It shot me way back across the bridge.
Yeah. Well, that and like the servers were kind of messing with us that day. We literally couldn't finish the mission at all.
That sucks.
Like we kept getting frozen and like kicked back to the menu. So there was that.
Next fun fact, in the mission Gravemind, your favorite mission, Eric, once the climax of the Covenant Civil War occurs, I already mentioned this already. Yeah, it plays a song in the classic version of the game. It's the instrumental of Breaking Benjamin's Blow Me Away. In the multiplayer level Turf, one can find a pop vending machine that has the Rooster Teeth logo on it. In the multiplayer level Zanzibar, if you change your Xbox's date to, I think it's July 7th, 2007, then the sign on the beach will change. And finally, so you guys may remember the monitor, that's not Guilty Spark, but the other one that got corrupted by the Gravemind. Its name is 2401 Penitent Tangent. And it's another reference to 7 because it's 7 to the power of 4. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Bungie, they got an obsession with 7. So they try to put in as many Easter eggs as they can. Some of them might just be coincidences that fans have put together, but I think all the monitors in the Halo lore are related to 7 somehow. So 7 to the power of 4.
343 Guilty Spark? How does that relate to 7?
I'm sure there's some.
You add 3 and 4 together, and then ignore the other 3, and you have 7.
No, maybe that's what it is.
And those are all the fun facts.
All right.
I should use some of these fun facts as questions for my trivia.
Oh God.
Oh Lord. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm probably not gonna remember any of them.
See if Gaff actually remembers them.
Oh, I don't think I asked you guys. Do you guys think the game still holds up before we go into the rankings?
Yeah, I think so. Not so with a caveat. If you're looking for a modern shooter type, probably not. If you're looking for a good campaign and a great time, sure. Definitely
I was
holds
gonna
up.
say the same thing. Campaign and the story that's easily enjoyable even by today's standards. But multiplayer, nah, we're not there yet.
See, I think the opposite about multiplayer. Oh, sorry, Sam, but
yeah, I was gonna say I think it holds up as like just playing around with your friends, but as a single player game, I don't like the campaign. Whatever. I don't think it holds up very well. I think the only I don't think the game itself really holds up, but like it's just if it's the only thing you have to like play with your friends, then sure it holds up because it's a fun enough time to like mess around in.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't know. Like for me, I feel like the multiplayer at least maybe holds up a bit because it's still pretty fun, you know. Especially the anniversary edition, you're playing that with like more modern features.
Okay,
that's a good one to
anniversary,
play.
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, campaign wise, it's obviously another Halo campaign like back then, you know. So it is a little harder to get into, but I still had like fun with it, even though that one level was a pain in the ass.
Let's get to the ranking.
Yeah, finally, let's get to the ranking it. At number 1, we have Combat Evolved. That's the only game we ranked. So where do you guys want to rank this? Above or below Combat Evolved?
Oh, you know, controversial opinion, but I think above.
I agree.
Who votes this above Combat Evolved?
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone does. I just gotta get. I knew we were all gonna do. I just gotta get that in there, you know.
If you don't, you're wrong.
I think next week is when it starts getting interesting. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? I don't think so, but
well, I don't know. I have to go back. I'm gonna be honest. When I first played Halo 3, future spoilers, but like I didn't enjoy it as much as 2. But let's see how I am during your free play.
Okay.
Also, future spoilers. I agree with everything Eric just said. I enjoyed 2 more than 3, but we'll see. We'll see what happens on this playthrough.
Oh, well, Halo 3, we can actually do co-op campaigns, so maybe our game will change after that.
Oh, maybe.
4-player
That's been
co-op.
it for Halo 2 Explored. Any closing thoughts before we go, guys?
Something about Master Chief and Cortana. What's the line?
Don't make a girl a promise. You know you can't keep.
There we go.
We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.
Or next time.
Yes.
Keep exploring those Halos.
Oh, God.
Oh, boy.
We've got a new contact. Unknown classification.
It isn't one of ours. Take it out.
This is Spartan 117.
Anyone hear me? Over.
Isolate that signal. Master Chief, you mind telling me what you're doing on that ship?
Sir, finishing this fight.